I knew something was wrong the second a stranger answered my fiancé's phone and called herself his wife. Not girlfriend, not partner, not who is this? Like a normal person. Wife. I stood there in the middle of my kitchen, still holding the grocery bag I had just walked in with, frozen in place while her voice echoed in my ear like something out of a nightmare I hadn't woken up from yet. You have the wrong number, she said calmly. Too calmly, like she'd said that line before. But I didn't hang up, because I knew I didn't. I'm calling Ethan Cole, I said, my voice steady in a way that didn't match the way my heart was slamming against my ribs. This is his number. There was a pause. Not long, just enough to feel intentional. Then she spoke again. He's not available right now. Something about the way she said it made my stomach twist. Not defensive, not confused, possessive. Who is this? I asked. Another pause. Then, quieter this time, almost careful. I could ask you the same thing. That's when it hit me. Not like a dramatic realization. Not like some cinematic moment where everything suddenly made sense. No, it felt like something small inside me cracking. Slow, quiet, dangerous. I'm his fiancée, I said. Silence. Real silence this time. And for a second, just 1 second, I thought maybe I had misunderstood everything. Maybe she was a coworker, a relative, someone messing around. But then she spoke again, and completely shattered that hope. No, she said softly. You're not. The line went dead. I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't think. I just stood there, staring at my phone like it might somehow explain what had just happened. Because there had to be an explanation. There had to be. Ethan and I had been together for 3 years. 3. We were engaged. We had a wedding date, a venue, invitations already drafted. Our families knew. Our lives were intertwined in a way that wasn't supposed to break this easily. So no, there had to be a mistake. There had to be something I wasn't seeing. Because the alternative didn't make sense. Couldn't, right? I slowly set the grocery bag down on the counter, my hands moving on autopilot while my mind raced in circles, trying to piece together something, anything, that made this feel less insane. Then I called him again, straight to voicemail, again, voicemail, again, same thing. Each unanswered call made something inside me tighten just a little more, until it wasn't confusion anymore. It was fear, not loud, not panicked, just cold, like standing in a room where the temperature suddenly dropped and you didn't know why. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't even sit down. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I opened my laptop, because if there was one thing I knew about Ethan, it was that he was careful. Too careful. The kind of man who always had explanations ready before you even asked the question. Which meant if something was wrong, he had already thought about how to hide it. And that thought scared me more than anything else. I logged into the shared calendar we used. Everything looked normal. Work meetings, gym sessions, a client dinner tonight. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious. But now it all felt different. Because suddenly, every normal thing had a question behind it. Every gap in his schedule felt like something I had ignored. Every late night, every busy week, every moment I chose trust over doubt. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen while my thoughts started connecting in ways I didn't like. This wasn't just one weird phone call. This was something bigger, something I had missed, or maybe something I had chosen not to see. My phone buzzed in my hand. My heart jumped. Ethan. Finally. I answered immediately. Hey, he said, like nothing was wrong, like everything was exactly the same as it had been this morning. And for a split second, I almost believed him. I called you, I said. Yeah, I saw. I was in a meeting. Of course he was. There it was. The explanation. Clean. Simple. Ready. I swallowed. I called a few times. Must have been back to back, he replied smoothly. What's up? What's up? Like I hadn't just spoken to a woman who claimed to be his wife. like my entire world hadn't tilted in the span of 30 seconds. I closed my eyes briefly. Steady. Don't rush. Don't show everything. Not yet. I called earlier, I said slowly, and a woman answered your phone. Silence. Not long, but long enough. Then, oh, he said lightly. Yeah, that was probably my colleague, Rachel. We were working together. Rachel. New name. Casual delivery. Perfect timing. Too perfect. She said she was your wife. Another pause. This one heavier. Then a small laugh. Dismissive. Almost amused. Seriously? That's weird. She must have been joking. Joking, right? Because that's exactly what people joke about with strangers. I didn't respond immediately, and I think that's when he realized something had shifted. Hey, he added, his tone changing just slightly. You okay? No, I wasn't okay, but I also wasn't stupid. Yeah, I said, just caught me off guard. Yeah, I get that, he said quickly. Don't worry about it, all right? I'll call you later. Later. Always later. Okay, I said, and I hung up. Then I sat there, completely still, letting the silence settle around me again. But this time, felt different, heavier, because now I wasn't confused. I wasn't trying to make sense of something impossible. I was starting to see it. The cracks, the inconsistencies, the way his explanation didn't quite fit, the way my instincts refused to calm down, and most importantly, the way that woman's voice sounded. She hadn't sounded confused. She hadn't sounded like she was joking. She had sounded certain, and people don't sound that certain unless they believe what they're saying is true. I slowly picked up my phone again, scrolled to his contact, hovered over the call button, then stopped, because calling him again wouldn't give me answers. He would just talk, explain, smooth things over, like he always did. No, if I wanted the truth, I had to stop asking him for it and start finding it myself. So instead of calling him, I did something else, something small, but irreversible. I searched his name, not casually, not like before. This time I dug, deeper than I ever had, and what I found in the first 10 minutes made my hands start to shake, because there were things about Ethan, things about his life, that I should have known, but didn't, and the more I looked, the clearer it became. That phone call? That wasn't the beginning of the problem. It was just the first time I finally noticed it, and the truth I was about to uncover was so much bigger than I was ready for, because Ethan wasn't just lying to me, he was living an entirely different life, and I had just stepped into it without realizing. I was never supposed to find out. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. I stayed on the couch with my laptop open, the glow from the screen the only light in the room, replaying that call over and over in my head like it might change if I thought about it differently. Didn't. Her voice stayed the same, calm, certain, possessive, and that certainty was the thing that kept me awake. Because Ethan explained things. He softened edges. He made everything sound reasonable even when it wasn't. But her? She didn't try to convince me. She didn't need to. That meant something. Something real. Something I couldn't ignore anymore. So I stopped thinking like his fiancée and started thinking like someone who had been lied to. That shift changed everything. I reopened my laptop and started from scratch. Not the surface-level searches I had done before, the kind people do when they're just curious or bored. This time, I dug like I was looking for something specific, like I already knew there was something there, and I just had to find it. Ethan Cole. I typed it in again, scrolled past the usual results, his LinkedIn, a couple of company mentions, some conference panels he'd been on. All clean, all polished, all exactly what he would want anyone to see. But people like Ethan, they don't make mistakes in the obvious places. They slip in the details, the things they don't think anyone will connect. So I started cross-referencing old posts, tagged photos, archived pages, anything that didn't fit the version of him I knew. And for a while, nothing. Just the same curated life I had always seen. Until I found something small. So small most people would have skipped right past it. A name, not his, tagged in an old post from almost 4 years ago. Before me, before we even met. Lila Harper. The post itself wasn't important. Just a group photo at some event. Ethan was in it, younger, standing next to a woman I didn't recognize. Blonde, soft smile, her hand resting lightly on his arm. Not in a way that screamed anything, but not nothing either. I clicked her name, profile private. Of course it was, but her profile picture, that stopped me, because she was holding a little girl, maybe 4 or 5 years old, dark hair, big eyes, and something about her face made my chest tighten. I leaned closer to the screen, zoomed in, my stomach dropped, because I had seen that face before, not clearly, not enough to notice at the time, but now I recognized it. A photo Ethan once showed me on his phone. He had said it was his niece. I remember because I asked. He had smiled and said, "Yeah, my sister's kid. She's obsessed with me." At the time, I didn't question it. Why would I? It made sense. Fit the story. But now it didn't. I sat back slowly, my mind trying to catch up with what I was seeing. That girl in Lila's picture, she looked exactly like the one in Ethan's. Same eyes, same smile, same little dimple on the left side. That wasn't coincidence. That wasn't just similar. That was the same child. My heart started pounding harder now, not from confusion this time, but from something sharper, closer to certainty. I clicked through everything I could access. Old comments, mutual tags, even the people interacting with her posts. And then I saw it. Comment from someone else. "Happy anniversary, you two Redheart. 3 years ago," under a photo I couldn't see, but the timestamp mattered. 3 years ago, that's when Ethan and I had just started dating. Casually at first. Nothing serious. At least, that's what I thought. My throat felt dry, because timelines don't lie. People do. I grabbed my phone and opened our messages. Scrolled back, way back, to the beginning, and suddenly all those little gaps started to stand out. Days where he went quiet. Trips, he said, were last-minute work things. Weekends where he couldn't see me because he was with family. At the time, it felt normal, even reassuring. He was busy, successful, committed to his responsibilities. But now it looked like something else, like scheduling, like balance, like he was dividing his time between 2 lives, and I was just one part of it. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to stay focused. Emotion could come later. Right now, I needed facts. I went back to Lila's profile and took a screenshot of everything I could see. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I sent her a message. Not carefully, not strategically, just honest. This is going to sound strange, but I think we need to talk about Ethan. I stared at the screen after sending it, my finger hovering over the unsend option. But I didn't press it, because if everything I was starting to believe was true, then she deserved to know, just like I did. Minutes passed, then 10, then 20. No response. I set my phone down and stood up, pacing slowly across the room. Because now I wasn't just dealing with betrayal. I was dealing with something bigger, a double life, a hidden reality that had existed right alongside mine without me ever noticing. And the worst part? I didn't even know which version of him was real. The one who cooked dinner with me on Sundays, who talked about our future like it was something solid, who held me like I was the only person that mattered, or the one who had a child, a whole other family, a life he never once mentioned. My phone buzzed suddenly. I froze, looked down. It wasn't him. It was her. Lila. My chest tightened as I opened the message. 3 words. That was all it took to change everything. "Who are you?" I stared at the screen, my heartbeat loud in my ears, because that question, it wasn't confused. It wasn't dismissive. It was cautious, like she already suspected something, like she had been waiting for this moment without realizing it. I took a slow breath and typed back. I think we've both been lied to. The typing bubble appeared almost instantly, then disappeared, then appeared again, longer this time, and when her reply finally came through, I felt something inside me shift completely. Call me, now.
No hesitation, no denial, no pretending.
Just urgency. And that told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't one-sided. This wasn't just my reality falling apart. It was hers too. And whatever Ethan had been hiding was about to come crashing down on both of us. I grabbed my phone, stood in the middle of the room, and hit call. My hands weren't shaking anymore. My voice wasn't unsteady, because fear had already passed. And what replaced it was something much more dangerous. Clarity. She answered on the second ring. Neither of us spoke for a second. Then, say his full name, she said.
No greeting, no softness.
Just a demand. I didn't hesitate. Ethan Cole. Silence. Heavy. Then a quiet, broken exhale on the other end. Okay, she said slowly. Then we have a problem. And something about the way she said it made me realize this wasn't just about cheating. This wasn't just about lies. This was something deeper, more calculated, more deliberate, because the next thing she said, it didn't just confirm my fears. It made them worse. I'm not his girlfriend, she said. Pause. Then, I'm the mother of his daughter. Everything inside me went still, because in that moment, there was no more guessing, no more doubt, no more maybe I misunderstood. This was real, all of it, and the life I thought I was building was never mine to begin with. But what I didn't know yet was that Lila wasn't telling me everything either, and the truth we were about to uncover together was going to destroy both of us in ways neither of us saw coming. For a few seconds after she said it, I couldn't respond, not because I didn't understand, but because I understood too well. I'm the mother of his daughter. The words didn't feel dramatic. They didn't echo or explode or shatter anything the way you'd expect in moments like this. They just settled, heavy,
Permanent.
like something sliding into place that should have always been there. And the worst part, everything suddenly made sense. Every missing weekend, every family obligation, every time he said he couldn't talk because he was with someone important. He never lied about that part. He just never told me who. I pressed my lips together, forcing myself to stay present. Because if I let the emotions take over now, I'd lose the one thing I needed most. Control. How old is she? I asked quietly. There was a pause on her end. 5, she said. 5. My chest tightened, because that meant she existed before me. Long before me. This wasn't some overlap. This wasn't a mistake. This was a life he had already built, and then chose to hide. Does he live with you? I asked. No, she replied immediately. He comes and goes. That answer hit differently, because it sounded familiar. Too familiar. He told me he travels a lot for work, I said. A bitter laugh came through the phone. Yeah, she said. He told me that too. Of course he did. Same script, different audience. I walked slowly to the window, staring out at nothing, just needing something to ground me while everything inside me shifted. How long have you been together? She asked. I swallowed. 3 years. Silence. Then, that's not possible. Her voice wasn't angry. It was confused, like something didn't fit. We got engaged 6 months ago, I added. That's when her breathing changed. I could hear it, the way it caught slightly, the way she tried to steady it. Because now it wasn't just betrayal. It was something worse. Overlap. Time. Proof. He's been with me for 7 years, she said slowly. 7. I closed my eyes for a second, because that meant there was no before. No clean break. No explanation that made this less disgusting. He didn't leave one life to start another. He built a second one on top of the first, and somehow managed to keep both running. How did you not know? She asked, and there was no accusation in her voice, just disbelief. I let out a quiet breath. Because he's very good at lying. Another pause. Then, softer this time. Yeah. We stayed like that for a moment. Two strangers connected by the same person. The same deception. Trying to process something neither of us had agreed to be part of. Her name is Ava, she said suddenly. Caught me off guard. What? My daughter, she clarified. Her name is Ava. Something about that hit deeper than anything else. Because now this wasn't just about him. There was a child, a real person, a life, someone who had no idea any of this was happening. Does she know about me? I asked. No, she said quickly. She thinks he just works a lot. Of course she did. Same story, different version. My chest tightened again. But this time it wasn't just anger. It was something heavier, something complicated. Because I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was part of something that affected someone else. Someone innocent. And that changed everything. What do you want to do? I asked. The question hung there. Because this wasn't simple. This wasn't just leave him or confront him. This was bigger, messier, more dangerous emotionally. I don't know, she admitted. I didn't even know there was a you until right now. Same, I said. We both let out quiet breaths at the same time. Not quite a laugh, not quite relief, just recognition. Then something shifted in her tone, subtle, but clear. Where do you think he is right now? She asked. I frowned slightly. He said he had a client dinner. Silence. Then, he told me he's out of town. That landed hard, because that meant he wasn't just splitting time. He was actively lying to both of us at the same time. Same night, same hours. Two completely different stories. My grip on the phone tightened. Then where is he? I asked. That's what I want to know, she said. There was a different energy in her voice now. Less confusion, more focus, like something inside her had shifted too. From shock to action. I can check something, she added. What? I asked. I have access to his old tablet, she said. He left it here months ago. It's still connected to his accounts. My pulse picked up, because that was something. Can you track him? I asked. I don't know, she said, but I can try. I paced slowly across the room again, my mind already racing ahead. Do it, I said. There was a pause. Then the faint sound of movement on her end. Footsteps, a drawer opening, something being picked up. Give me a second, she said. I waited. Every second stretched longer than it should have, because this could change everything. Then, I'm in, she said quietly. My heart started pounding harder. What do you see? Silence. Then a sharp inhale. That's not possible. What? I asked, my voice tightening. He's not out of town, she said. I know that, I replied. But where is he? Another pause. Longer this time. Heavier. Then, he's at an apartment. My stomach dropped. What apartment? I don't know, she said. But it's not mine. The room suddenly felt smaller, like the walls were closing in just slightly. Send me the location, I said immediately. She didn't argue. Didn't hesitate. Okay, she said. A second later, my phone buzzed. I looked down at the address, and something inside me went cold, because I recognized it. Not clearly, but enough. Ethan had mentioned that street once. Said it was a temporary place he used for work when he needed quiet. I never questioned it. Why would I? Now I knew. It wasn't for work. It was for secrets. I grabbed my keys without thinking. What are you doing? She asked. I'm going there, I said. What? No, wait. I need to see it. I cut in. I need to know. Silence. Then, I'm coming too. That surprised me. You don't have to. I do, she said firmly. If what we think is true, I need to see it with my own eyes. There was no hesitation in her voice now,
No uncertainty.
just determination, and I understood it, because I felt the same way. Okay, I said, meet me there. We hung up, and for a moment, I just stood there in the middle of my apartment. Everything quiet, everything still, but inside, nothing was still, because whatever we were about to walk into wasn't just going to confirm the truth. It was going to show us something we weren't ready for. And somehow, I already knew this wasn't just two lives. It wasn't just me and her. There was something else, something bigger, something Ethan had been hiding from both of us. And we were about to find it, together, whether we were ready or not. I got to the address before she did. I don't even remember the drive. My body was on autopilot, hands gripping the wheel too tight, thoughts running faster than I could control. By the time I parked across the street, my heart wasn't racing anymore. It had slowed, not calm, focused. That building didn't look like anything special. Just another mid-rise apartment complex tucked between a cafe and a closed laundromat. No luxury entrance, no concierge, no obvious signs that anything important happened inside, which made it worse, because this wasn't where you built a life. This was where you hid one. I sat in the car, staring at the entrance, watching every person who went in or out like one of them might suddenly turn into him. My phone buzzed. Lila, I'm here. I looked up and saw her walking toward me from the corner. For a second, everything felt unreal, because this was the woman whose voice had shattered my reality less than 24 hours ago. And now she was standing right in front of me. Real, human, just as shaken as I was. She stopped a few feet away, studying me carefully. You're not what I expected, she said. I let out a small, humorless breath. You either. There was no hostility, no immediate connection either, just something in between. Two people forced into the same situation, trying to figure out what came next. That's the building? She asked, glancing over my shoulder. Yeah. She nodded slowly, then looked back at me. You ready? No, not even close. But I still said, yeah, because at this point, ready didn't matter. Truth did. We didn't talk much as we walked inside. The hallway smelled faintly like cleaning supplies and something older underneath it. The kind of place people passed through, not stayed in. We stopped near the stairwell, both of us checking our phones again like the location might suddenly change. Didn't. He's still here, she said quietly. I nodded. My chest felt tight, but not from fear, from anticipation, because whatever was behind that door was going to define everything after this. We found the unit number faster than I expected. 3rd floor, end of the hall. Of course it was. Private, isolated, convenient. We stood outside the door for a second, just looking at it, like it might open on its own, like we could somehow avoid what we were about to confirm. Say something, Lila whispered. What? I don't know. Just something. I swallowed, then knocked. Once. Firm. Clear.
No hiding. No pretending.
Silence. Then movement inside. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. The kind of footsteps someone makes when they're trying to figure out who's on the other side before opening the door. My heart started beating harder again. Lila stood beside me, completely still. The lock clicked. The door opened, and everything changed. Ethan stood there. For a split second, his face didn't register anything. Just confusion. Then recognition. Then something else. Something I had never seen on him before. Fear. Real fear. Maya, he said. Then his eyes shifted to Lila, and whatever color was left in his face disappeared completely. Because in that moment, he understood. Not part of it. All of it. Both of you, he said quietly.
No denial. No confusión.
No acting. Just that one sentence. And that told me everything. You want to explain? I asked. My voice was steady. Too steady. He looked between us again, like he was trying to find a version of this situation he could still control. There wasn't one. You shouldn't be here, he said. That almost made me laugh. Really? Lila snapped. Because I think we should have been here a long time ago. He stepped outside slightly, closing the door behind him. That move didn't go unnoticed. Why did you do that? I asked immediately. What? You closed the door. It's just, there's no need to. I pushed past him. I didn't wait for permission. Didn't think. I just moved. And the second I stepped inside, everything inside me went still. Because this wasn't just an apartment. It was a life. A fully built life. Different from Lila's. Different from mine. But just as real. The space was clean. Lived in. Personal. There were pictures on the wall. Furniture that wasn't temporary. Clothes that didn't belong to either of us. And then, I saw it. A drawing. Taped to the fridge. A child's drawing. Stick figures. 3 of them. A man. A woman. A child. Underneath, in messy handwriting, my family. My chest tightened so fast it almost hurt. Whose is this? I asked quietly. Ethan didn't answer, because he didn't need to. Lila stepped in behind me, and when she saw it, she froze. That's not Ava's, she said slowly. I turned to look at her. What? She shook her head, eyes still locked on the drawing. That's not my daughter's. Silence filled the room, heavy, suffocating, because that meant this wasn't just 2 lives. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just her. There was someone else. Another woman. Another child. Another entire life we didn't even know existed. I turned back to Ethan slowly. Tell me I'm wrong, I said. He didn't speak. Didn't move. Didn't even try. And that silence confirmed everything. Lila let out a quiet, broken laugh. Oh my God, she whispered. There's more. I felt something inside me shift again. Not shock this time. Not even anger. Something colder, sharper, more dangerous. Because this wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was calculation. A system. Pattern. How many? I asked him. My voice didn't shake. Didn't rise. Stayed calm. Controlled. And that seemed to scare him more than anything else. He started but stopped. Because there was no good answer. No safe answer. No, I said, cutting him off. Don't lie again. Not now. Lila stepped closer too. Say it, she said. He looked at both of us. Cornered. Exposed. Done. And then he said something neither of us were ready for. I didn't plan it like this. Silence. Then I let out a slow breath. That's not what I asked. His eyes dropped for a second, then back up. And when he finally answered, everything inside me locked into place. There's 3 of you. The room felt like it tilted. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, like reality had just shifted into something unrecognizable. 3. That meant, not just me, not just Lila. One more. Another woman. Another life. Another person who thought she was the only one. Lila took a step back, shaking her head. This isn't real, she said under her breath. But it was. All of it was. And standing there, in the middle of that apartment, surrounded by proof of a life we never knew existed, I realized something that changed everything moving forward. We weren't just victims of his lies. We were pieces of something he had built, carefully, deliberately, over time. And now that it was exposed, it wasn't going to fall apart quietly, because people like him don't just lose control. They fight to keep it. And the look in Ethan's eyes right now, it wasn't regret. It wasn't guilt. It was calculation, like he was already thinking of a way out, a way to fix this, a way to keep something. But what he didn't realize yet was that this wasn't a situation he could fix anymore. Because now, he wasn't dealing with one person. He was dealing with all of us. And if there was one thing I knew for sure in that moment, it was this: we weren't going to let him walk away from this. Not this time. Not ever again. But what I didn't expect was what the 3rd woman was about to bring into this. because she wasn't just another victim. She was the one who knew the most, and she had been waiting for this exact moment. For a second after he said it, nobody moved. 3. The word didn't just sit in the room. It spread. It wrapped around everything, turning what I thought was betrayal into something far more deliberate. This wasn't chaos. This wasn't a mistake. This was structure. Lila leaned against the wall like her legs had suddenly stopped working. I could hear her breathing, uneven, trying to catch up with what we had just learned. I didn't look at her right away because I knew if I did, I might lose the control I was holding onto by a thread. Instead, I kept my eyes on Ethan. "Who is she?" I asked. He didn't answer. Not immediately. And that hesitation, that told me she wasn't just some random overlap. She mattered. "Say her name," I added, my voice sharper now. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing once like he needed movement just to think. "Her name is Kara," he said finally.
Kara.
Another name, another life, another person who had no idea, or maybe she did. That thought hit me differently, because something about this situation didn't feel even anymore. Lila and I were just finding out. But what if Kara wasn't? What does she know? I asked. Ethan looked at me, then at Lila, like he was calculating something again. "I don't know," he said. That was a lie. I could feel it. "You don't know?" I repeated slowly, stepping closer to him. "Or you don't want to say?" His jaw tightened. "She knows some things." That wasn't enough. "What things?" Lila snapped, pushing herself off the wall. "Does she know about us?" Silence. Then, "Yes." The word hit harder than everything else, because that meant we were the only ones in the dark. Lila let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. Of course she does." I felt something cold settle in my chest again. "She knows about both of us?" I asked. He nodded slightly. "How long?" I pushed. Another pause. "About a year." A year. That meant while I was planning a wedding, while Lila was raising his child, there was someone else fully aware of the truth. Watching, waiting, existing inside a reality we hadn't even realized was fake. "Where is she?" I asked. Ethan hesitated. That hesitation was enough. "You're going to tell me," I said calmly. He exhaled slowly, like he was realizing he didn't have any control left in this situation. "She lives here sometimes," he said. I frowned. "Sometimes?" He nodded. "She travels a lot, comes and goes." That sounded familiar. Too familiar. Same pattern. Same system. Different person. "Call her," Lila said suddenly. Ethan looked at her. "What?" "Call her," she repeated. "Right now." "No," he said immediately. That was the fastest response he'd given all night, which meant that was exactly what we needed to do. "Call her," I said too. "I'm not doing that," he snapped, his voice rising slightly for the first time. There it was. The panic. The loss of control. I stepped closer, lowering my voice instead of raising it. "You don't have a choice." He looked at me like he was trying to figure out who I had become. And honestly, I wasn't entirely sure myself. But I knew one thing. I wasn't the woman he thought I was anymore. "I'm serious," he said. "You don't understand." "No." I cut him off, my voice sharp now. "You don't understand." Silence fell again, heavy, because now it wasn't just about truth. It was about power, and he was losing it. Lila crossed her arms, staring at him. "Either you call her or we do it ourselves. And I promise you won't like how that goes." He looked between us again, cornered, again. Finally, he pulled out his phone. His hands weren't steady. That didn't go unnoticed. He hesitated for a second before dialing, then put it on speaker. The ringing felt louder than it should have. Longer, more intense. Then she answered. "Hey!" Her voice was calm, controlled, too controlled. "Kara," Ethan said, his voice tight. "I need you to come here." Pause. "Now?" she asked. "Yes." Another pause. Then, They're there, aren't they? My stomach dropped slightly, because there it was. Confirmation. She knew. She had always known. Ethan didn't respond. He didn't need to. I'll be there in 20, she said. Then the line went dead. The room felt even heavier now, because we weren't waiting for answers anymore. We were waiting for someone who already had them. Lila let out a breath and shook her head again. This is insane. I didn't respond, because my mind was already moving ahead, trying to understand what kind of person stays in something like this. What kind of person knows the truth and chooses to remain part of it. Ethan leaned against the counter, rubbing his face like he was trying to wake up from something. This isn't what you think, he muttered. I looked at him. Then what is it? He didn't answer, because there wasn't an answer that made sense. Not anymore. The next 20 minutes felt like an hour. No one spoke much. There was nothing left to say. Everything had already been exposed. All that was left was to see how deep it actually went. Then, the door opened.
Nonak, no hesitación.
Just a key turning in the lock and the door swinging open like she belonged there. Because she did. Kara stepped inside like she wasn't walking into chaos. Like this was expected. Like she had been preparing for this moment. She didn't look surprised. Didn't look shocked. Didn't even look nervous. She just looked ready. Her eyes moved from Ethan to Lila to me. And something about the way she looked at us, not with sympathy, not with guilt, but with understanding, made my chest tighten. Okay, she said calmly, closing the door behind her. So it finally happened. Lila stared at her. You knew.
Kara nodded.
Yes.
No hesitación. No denial.
Just truth. And you stayed? I asked. She looked at me directly. Yes. That answer hit differently than anything Ethan had said. Because this wasn't manipulation. This wasn't lies. This was choice. Why? Lila asked, her voice breaking slightly. Kara was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that made everything shift again. Because I needed to understand what he was really doing. My eyes narrowed slightly. What does that mean? She took a step further into the room. And for the first time, her calm expression cracked just slightly. Ethan isn't just lying to us, she said. Silence. Then she looked directly at me. He's been using all of us. My stomach dropped. Using us for what? I asked. Kara didn't answer right away. She reached into her bag slowly, pulled out a small folder, and placed it on the table. Then she looked at both of us and said the one thing that made everything we thought we knew feel small. He's not just hiding relationships, she said quietly. He's hiding money. The room went completely still, because just like that, this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This wasn't just about love or lies or broken trust. This was something bigger, something darker, something we hadn't even considered yet. And somehow, I already knew, whatever was inside that folder was going to change everything again. For a few seconds after Kara said it, no one touched the folder. Not me, not Lila, not even Ethan. It just sat there on the table like something alive, like opening it would make everything worse in a way none of us could undo. Open it, Kara said quietly. Her voice wasn't dramatic. It wasn't emotional. It was certain. That same kind of certainty I heard the first time Lila spoke to me on the phone. And I was starting to realize something. The calm ones were always the most dangerous in situations like this. I stepped forward first. Not because I wanted to, because I needed to. If I hesitated now, I'd lose control of the one thing keeping me steady. I opened the folder and instantly wished I hadn't. Not because it was confusing, because it was clear. Too clear. Bank statements, multiple accounts, different names, but the patterns were obvious. Money moving, in and out, across different places, consistently, carefully, deliberately. What is this? Lila asked, her voice quieter now. Kara leaned against the counter, arms crossed. It's what he's actually been doing, she said. I flipped through more pages, each one worse than the last. This isn't just hidden money, I said slowly. This is structured.
Karan oddet.
Yes, my chest tightened. How long? I asked. She looked at Ethan. He didn't answer, so she did. At least 4 years, she said. For that meant this started before me, before Lila even realized anything was wrong. This wasn't something that happened after. This was always part of him. Explain it, I said. Kara exhaled slowly, like she'd been waiting for this moment. He moves money through different identities, different setups, she said. Uses relationships to make everything look legitimate. My grip tightened slightly on the papers. Relationships? Lila asked. Kara looked at both of us. You, she said to me. Stable job, clean financial record, shared accounts, easy to move money through without raising flags. My stomach dropped. Then she looked at Lila. You, she continued. Long-term partner, joint expenses, child-related accounts. Another layer of normal. Lila's face went pale. Then Kara pointed at herself. And me, she said. Travel access, business contacts, offshore connections. Silence. Heavy. Because now it all made sense in a way I didn't want it to. We weren't just separate lives. We were parts of something. Pieces. Used for different roles. Different functions. Different advantages. You built this, I said slowly, looking at Ethan. He finally spoke. I didn't mean for it to. Stop. I cut him off sharply. Don't start with that, because I could already hear it. The excuses, the justifications, it got out of control. No, this didn't look like something that got out of control. This looked like something that was carefully controlled from the start. You knew exactly what you were doing, I said. He didn't deny it this time. That silence said enough. Lila stepped forward suddenly, her voice shaking now. So what? We're just tools to you. Ethan looked at her, and for the first time there was something real in his expression. Not manipulation, not calculation, something closer to regret. It wasn't like that in the beginning, he said quietly. Kara let out a small, cold laugh. It always is, she said. I didn't take my eyes off him. Which part was real? I asked. He didn't answer, because there wasn't a safe answer. If he said none of it was real, it made him a monster. If he said some of it was real, it made everything worse, because then it meant he chose to keep lying anyway. So that's it, Lila said, her voice rising. You just built 3 lives and used all of us? I didn't plan for it to be this many, he muttered. That sentence hit like a slap. Not because it was loud, because it was honest. And that honesty was worse than any lie he could have told. I closed the folder slowly, because at this point, I had seen enough. This isn't just betrayal, I said. This is criminal. Kara nodded again. Yes. Lila looked between us. What does that mean? She asked. It means, I said carefully, this doesn't end with us walking away. Silence. Because that reality had just shifted everything again. This wasn't just emotional damage. This was legal. Serious.
Permanent.
Ethan straightened slightly. You're not going to report this, he said. It wasn't a question. It was an assumption. And that alone told me how he saw the situation. Still controllable. Still manageable. Still something he could fix. I looked at him, and for the first time, I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Not even disappointment. Just clarity. You don't get to decide that, I said. His jaw tightened. You don't understand what happens if this comes out, he said. Kara's expression hardened. Oh, we understand perfectly, she said. He shook his head. No, you don't. It's not just me. That made me pause. What does that mean? I asked. He hesitated. And that hesitation, that was new. That wasn't about us. That was about something else. Something bigger. There are other people involved, he said finally. The room went still again. Because of course there were. Of course this wasn't just him. Nothing this structured ever is. How many? I asked. I don't know exactly, he said. But it's not small. Kara looked at me. This is why I stayed, she said quietly. I turned to her. You knew this part? She nodded. Not all of it, but enough to know he wasn't the only one. Lila shook her head again, overwhelmed. This is insane, she whispered. No one disagreed, because it was. But it was also real. And now we were part of it whether we wanted to be or not. I stepped back slightly, taking a breath, thinking, because reacting wasn't enough anymore. We needed a decision, a real one. If we walk away, I said slowly, we're still connected to this.
からのデッド
Yes, and if we stay quiet, I added, he keeps doing it. Another nod. Yes. Lila looked at both of us. So what are we supposed to do? That was the question, the real one. And for a moment, no one answered, because every option came with consequences, serious ones. Then Kara spoke again. We take control of it. I looked at her. What? Her eyes didn't waver. We already have access, she said. We already know the system. We already know his role. My chest tightened slightly. That's not simple. I didn't say it was, she replied. Lila stared at her. You're saying we just step into this? Kara shook her head slightly.
No.
I'm saying we decide what happens next instead of letting him. That idea hung in the air. Dangerous, complicated, but powerful. I looked at Ethan. For the first time, he didn't look like the one in control. He looked like someone realizing the situation had flipped. You think you can handle this? He asked quietly. I met his gaze. And for the first time since all of this started, I didn't feel like the person who had been lied to. I felt like the person who had finally seen the truth. We already are, I said. And the way his expression shifted after that, that slight moment of real fear, told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't over, not even close, because now, this wasn't just about what he did. It was about what we were going to do with it. And the decision we were about to make was going to change all of our lives permanently. But what none of us realized yet was that we weren't the only ones watching anymore. Because somewhere in all of this, someone else had already noticed, and they weren't going to stay silent. The silence after that decision didn't feel empty, felt loaded, like something had already been set in motion, and we were just now catching up to it. Kara's words kept echoing in my head. We take control of it. At first, it sounded insane. Now, it sounded like the only option that didn't leave us powerless. Because walking away wasn't clean anymore. Not after everything we had seen. Not after realizing we were already part of something bigger. And definitely not after what Ethan just admitted. There are other people involved. That sentence didn't sit right. It lingered, unfinished, dangerous. I leaned against the table, looking at both of them. We need to understand everything first, I said.
からのデッド
Yes. Lila looked overwhelmed but still listening, still trying to stay grounded. How? She asked. Kara pointed to the folder. This is just a piece of it, she said. He has more. Different devices. Different accounts. I looked at Ethan. You're going to give us access. It wasn't a question. He let out a slow breath, rubbing the back of his neck. You think it's that simple? He said.
No. Y replica calmly.
I think it's necessary. His eyes flicked between all three of us again, still calculating, still trying to find a gap. There wasn't one. Fine, he said finally. But once you see everything, you don't get to walk away like nothing happened. That sentence landed heavier than he probably intended, because it confirmed something we were already starting to understand. This wasn't just his mess anymore. It was ours too. Good, Kara said. We're not planning to. That was the moment I realized something important. She wasn't just reacting to this. She had already decided her role. She wasn't a victim anymore. She was part of the strategy. And whether I liked it or not, I was starting to think the same way. We moved to the living room. Ethan unlocked a drawer and pulled out another device. A smaller laptop. Not the one I had ever seen him use. Of course not. He opened it slowly, like he was fully aware this was the point of no return. "This connects everything," he said. I stepped closer. "What do you mean everything?" "All accounts," he replied. "Transactions.
Contact.
Routes. Routes." That word stuck. "Routes for what?" Lila asked. Ethan hesitated again. Then, "Money movement." Kara nodded like she already knew that. I didn't. Not fully. But I was starting to understand the shape of it. He turned the screen toward us. And what I saw was worse than the folder. Way worse. Because this wasn't just records. This was active. Live. Numbers moving in real time. Accounts linking to each other. Different names. Different regions. And everything connected in ways that felt too precise to be accidental. "This isn't small," I said quietly.
No, Ethan replied.
Lila stepped back slightly. "This is insane." She wasn't wrong. But what bothered me more wasn't the size of it. It was the structure. This wasn't random. This wasn't sloppy. This was built, maintained, evolved. "How many people are involved?" I asked. Ethan didn't look at me this time. "More than you think." Kara crossed her arms. "Are they all like us?" That made him pause. Then,
No,
the way he said it made my chest tighten. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means," he said slowly, "not everyone is unaware." The room went still, because that changed everything again. "So some people know?" Lila asked. "Yes." "And they're still part of it?" "Yes." Kara let out a breath. "Then this isn't just manipulation," she said.
No, Ethan replied.
"It's business." That word felt wrong. Too clean. Too simple. For something this messy. "This isn't business," I said. "This is exploitation." He didn't argue, because he couldn't. For the next hour, we went through everything. Not all of it. That would take days. Weeks. Maybe longer. But enough to understand the core. How he used different relationships to create layers. How money moved through those layers to avoid attention. How everything looked normal from the outside. Because it was designed to. And the more I saw, the less I felt like the person who had been lied to. And the more I felt like someone standing inside a system. A system that could either collapse or be controlled. "What happens if this gets reported?" Lila asked suddenly. Ethan looked at her. "It doesn't just hit me," he said. "It hits everyone connected to it. That included us." That reality settled hard. "So we're already in it," she said quietly. "Yes." Kara looked at me. "This is why I didn't leave," she said. I nodded slowly. "I get it now." And I did. Not because I agreed with it, but because I understood the position. Walking away didn't erase involvement. It just removed control. And right now, control was the only thing that mattered. Then my phone buzzed. I glanced down. Unknown number. Normally, I would have ignored it. Right now, nothing felt normal. I answered. "Hello." Silence. Then a voice. Male. Calm. Unfamiliar. "You shouldn't be there." My entire body went still. "Who is this?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he said something that made the room feel colder instantly. "We know what you're doing." I looked up at the others. They were watching me now, reading my expression. "Who is this?" I repeated, sharper this time. Another pause. Then, "You've seen enough," he said. "Walk away." The line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly. "What is it?" Kara asked. I swallowed, then said the one thing none of us were ready to hear. "We're not the only ones watching this." Silence filled the room again, but this time, it wasn't confusion. It was realization, because everything just shifted again. This wasn't just Ethan. This wasn't just his network. This was something bigger, something aware, something already paying attention. Lila stepped closer. What did they say? That we should walk away. Kara's expression hardened. That means we're already in too deep. Ethan didn't say anything, but the look on his face, that told me everything. He knew who it was, or at least, he had an idea. Who was that? I asked him. He hesitated. Again. But this time, it wasn't about hiding something from us. It was about something he didn't want to confirm. Someone you don't want to deal with, he said quietly. That wasn't good enough. Say it. I pushed. He looked at me, then at the screen, then back at me, and for the first time since all of this started, he looked genuinely unsure. I think, he said slowly, we just triggered something bigger than all of us. The room felt heavier than before, because now the situation wasn't just internal. It wasn't just about what he built. It was about what was connected to it. And whoever called, they weren't asking, they were warning, which meant if we didn't stop now, we weren't just dealing with betrayal anymore. We were stepping into something dangerous, something we didn't fully understand. And the worst part of me didn't want to stop, because after everything, walking away didn't feel like safety, felt like losing, and I wasn't ready to lose anymore. But what none of us realized yet was that the next move wasn't ours. It was already coming, and when it did, we weren't going to be prepared for it. The moment that call ended, everything felt different. Not louder, not chaotic, quieter, but in a way that made every small sound feel sharp. Like the world had narrowed down to just this apartment, this room, and the choices we were about to make. We need to leave, Lila said first, her voice tight, controlled, but underneath it, fear, real fear. Kara didn't move. Running now won't fix anything, she replied calmly. Lila turned to her. This isn't about fixing. It's about survival. I didn't speak yet, because both of them were right, and that was the problem. Ethan finally pushed himself off the counter, pacing once like he needed to shake something off. They won't just threaten you, he said. If they called, it means they already know enough. I looked at him. Who are they? He stopped pacing, looked at the floor, then back at me. People I thought I could stay under, he said quietly. That answer said more than any name would have. You didn't stay under, Kara said. No, he admitted. I built too much, too fast, and now we were standing inside it. I stepped closer to the laptop again, staring at the moving numbers, the connections, the structure. This isn't just about money, I said slowly. Ethan didn't respond. He didn't need to, because we all understood now. Money like this, systems like this, they don't exist in isolation. They're connected to things, people, power, control, and we had just stepped directly into it. We need to decide, I said finally, turning back to them, what kind of ending we're choosing. Lila let out a breath. I choose getting out alive. Kara shook her head slightly. That's not an ending. That's a delay. They looked at me, waiting, because somehow, without saying it out loud, the decision had shifted to me. Not because I was stronger, not because I was smarter, but because I was the one who had nothing left tying me emotionally to him anymore. No child, no shared years, no lingering attachment, just clarity. And that made me dangerous. I looked at Ethan. Is there a way to shut this down? I asked. He hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yes. How? Trigger a collapse, he said. Move everything at once. Break the structure.
Karafronet.
That would expose everything. Yes. Lila looked between us. And what happens to us? Ethan met her eyes. You become witnesses instead of participants. That hit differently, because it wasn't clean. It wasn't safe. But it was control. And for the first time since all of this started, I felt something close to certainty. We do it, I said. Both of them looked at me. Are you serious? Lila asked. Yes. Kara studied me carefully. You understand what that means? I nodded. It means we stop being part of his system and start being part of something bigger, she added. I already accepted that the second I walked into this apartment, I said. Silence. Then Kara gave a small nod. Okay. Lila hesitated longer, but eventually, she nodded too. Okay. Ethan exhaled slowly, like something inside him had just given up. Or maybe, finally let go. The next 30 minutes felt unreal. Not rushed, not chaotic, precise. Ethan moved through the system like he had done it 100 times before. But this time, he wasn't building. He was breaking. Counts triggered. Transfers redirected. Connections exposed. And with every move, the structure we had just discovered started collapsing in on itself. You're setting off alarms, Kara said. I know, he replied. Everywhere. I know. Lila stood beside me, her hand gripping mine without even realizing it. What happens when it finishes? She asked. Ethan didn't look up. They come. The room went quiet again, because we all understood what that meant. But none of us stopped him, because stopping now would have meant going back. And none of us could do that. Not anymore. Then it happened. The screen froze for a second, then went black. Ethan leaned back slowly. It's done. No one moved. No one spoke. We just stood there, waiting. Then, sirens. Distant at first. Then closer. Much closer. Lila's grip tightened. Kara didn't move at all. And I just stood there, feeling something strange settle inside me. Not fear. Not relief. Something in between. Because whatever happened next was final. Minutes later, the knock came. Hard. Authoritative. Open the door. Ethan didn't move. Neither did we. Because we didn't need to. This wasn't his moment anymore. This was ours. I walked to the door. My hand didn't shake. My breath stayed steady. And when I opened it, everything ended and began at the same time. I won't describe everything that happened after. Not because I can't, but because it's not the part that matters. What matters is this. He didn't walk away. None of it disappeared. And neither did we. Statements were taken. Records were reviewed. Names were uncovered. And for the first time since this started, the truth wasn't hidden anymore. It was out. Fully. Completely. And irreversible. Months later, I stood in a completely different place. Different city. Different life. No shared accounts. No lies. No versions of reality layered on top of each other. Just clarity. Lila and I still talk sometimes. Not every day. Not even every week. But enough. There's something about going through something like that together. It doesn't disappear.
Kara?
She moved further than both of us. Distance was her way of closing things. And I respect that. As for Ethan, I don't think about him anymore. Not in the way I used to. Not with anger. Not with questions. Just as something that existed. And ended. But sometimes, late at night, I think about one thing. Not the lies. Not the betrayal. Not even the system. I think about how close I was to never knowing. To living inside something that wasn't real. To building a future on something designed to collapse. And that thought, that's the one that stays. Because the truth didn't just break my life. It saved it. In the worst way possible. And if you've made it this far, if you felt even a fraction of what I went through, then you already know. Sometimes the truth doesn't set you free. Sometimes it destroys everything first. But if you want more stories like this, the kind that hit hard, twist your mind, and make you question everything, make sure you subscribe, because the next one might hit even closer than you expect.